Welcome back to Elderly Guidance.
Good to be back.
We've got some really interesting source material laid out here today. We're doing a deep dive into something, well, potentially right there on your dinner plate.
That's right, the meats we eat. Specifically, how our choices might need to change after we hit 60.
Yeah, the premise from these sources is pretty eye-opening. It suggests that the way you ate meat, say in your 30s or 40s, it might actually be harmful now.
With some very common meats potentially increasing risks for things like heart attack, cancer, even memory problems, according to this research.
But it's not all bad news. The flip side is that other meats are presented here as actually boosting health outcomes. Really beneficial stuff.
Exactly. And that's our mission for this deep dive, right? To unpack what these specific sources are saying.
Precisely. Based only on the material you brought, we're going to look at the 4 meats identified as the worst to be eating regularly after 60.
And maybe even more importantly, the 4 meats the sources say you must try to include, all backed by the science and stats presented right here.
And get ready for a few curveballs. There's one meat on the worst list that many people probably think of as, like, peak health food.
And on the best list, something often overlooked, like organ meat, is highlighted as a real nutritional powerhouse in this research.
It really underlines the stakes, according to this material. These choices about meat, they're presented as having a huge impact on your energy, your muscle strength, memory.
Longevity, even. It's about fueling yourself correctly for the years ahead.
It really is. And look, staying on top of this kind of information, the stuff backed by data, that's what we try to do here.
Making informed choices.
Exactly. So, if you want more deep dives like this one, getting straight to what the research indicates, do make sure you hit that subscribe button now. You won't want to miss out.
Okay, shall we start with the potentially problematic ones?
Let's do it. The first part of our deep dive, the meats these sources suggest you might want to limit or avoid after 60. And they've even ranked them from sort of least concerning to most.
Okay. Kicking us off at number 4 on this caution list is conventional pork sausage.
Ah, the breakfast staple. Or maybe a quick dinner add-in for lots of folks. But this material calls it out pretty strongly. A potential ticking time bomb, I think was the phrase used.
Yeah, and the key concern highlighted isn't necessarily the pork itself, it's the processing.
How so?
Well, conventional sausages are often loaded with preservatives, specifically nitrates and nitrites. And the issue is, when these compounds are heated or even just digested,
They can change into something else.
exactly, they can form nitrosamines. And those are the compounds strongly linked to increased cancer risk. They can damage DNA, promote unwanted cell growth.
And that risk is higher for older adults, the sources say.
That's what's suggested, yeah. Possibly because digestion might be a bit slower and maybe the body's detox pathways aren't quite as efficient as they used to be.
Makes sense.
There's a specific study mentioned from 2022 in BNC Medicine. It looked at thousands of adults over 60.
And what did it find?
It found that those eating processed pork sausage just twice a week had a 22% higher risk of colon cancer.
Wow. Twice a week isn't that much?
And a 16% greater risk of kidney dysfunction, too.
Oof. Okay. And it's not just the nitrates, right? The material also mentions sodium.
Oh, huge amounts of sodium, which, as you know, puts a big strain on blood pressure, on your kidneys. It can lead to fluid retention.
That swelling in the legs a lot of seniors notice.
Exactly. And then there's the saturated fat content, pushing up LDL cholesterol, contributing to plaque buildup in arteries.
So if you're already watching your heart health or blood pressure, these sources suggest this is kind of working directly against you.
Pretty much. The convenience comes at a potential health cost.
So what's the alternative suggested here?
Looking for fresh, unprocessed meats is the main thing, checking labels really carefully for nitrates and nitrites. Or, even better, maybe making your own leaner sausage patties at home.
Like with ground turkey or chicken
Yeah,
and your own seasonings?
exactly. You skip all those additives.
Okay, moving up the list. Number 3 is deli ham and processed cold cuts.
Ah, the sandwich fillers. Super convenient, but described in this material as deceptively dangerous, particularly as we get older.
And again, it sounds like that ultra-processing is the main culprit.
Seems to be. They're often packed with salt, artificial flavorings, sometimes hidden sugars, phosphates. And those preservatives again, like sodium nitrite.
Sodium nitrite again, and
Eh?
that reacts in the body to form those nitrosamines we just talked about.
That's the mechanism described, yes,
Switcheroo.
causing potential tissue damage over time. There's another study cited here, a big one from 2020 in the International Journal of Epidemiology.
What did that one show?
It followed around 40,000 seniors, those eating deli meats just 4 or more times a week. They had a 24% higher risk of heart failure.
24%. That's substantial.
And maybe even more concerning, a 19% increased risk of dying from any cause, all-cause mortality.
Just from eating cold cuts a few times a week. That's
Yeah.
a powerful statistic from that research.
It really highlights the cumulative effect, doesn't it? And it's not just the nitrosamines or the salt.
What else?
The hidden sugars and phosphates can stress the kidneys, mess with blood sugar control, and of course the sheer amount of sodium is bad news for blood pressure and fluid retention.
Ankle and leg swelling again.
Yep. And the sources even connect regular consumption of these processed meats to inflammation and potentially impacting cognitive function over time, maybe through tiny strokes.
So the convenience factor is high, but the potential long-term cost to your heart, kidneys, brain, it adds up according to this material.
It does. The suggested swap is pretty simple, though.
Which is?
Cook fresh meat yourself, roast a chicken breast, some turkey, lean beef, then slice it up at home for sandwiches or salads.
Takes a bit more planning, but you avoid all that processing.
Exactly. Big difference nutritionally.
All right, number 2 on the worst list, according to these sources. Deep-fried chicken, especially the fast food variety.
Ah, classic comfort food. But presented here as a real danger zone for health after 60.
And again, it's not the chicken itself, but the preparation method.
Entirely. It's usually dipped in a batter made with refined flour, then plunged into, frankly, cheap oils, often oils that have been reused multiple times, heated to extreme temperatures.
And that process creates harmful stuff.
Oh, yeah, a whole cocktail of toxic compounds, as the sources put it. You're talking trans fats, which we know are bad, things called acrylamides, and advanced glycation end products, or AGs.
AGs, what do they do?
They're highly inflammatory. They directly damage cells and organs. Plus, the chicken just soaks up those cheap oils, often soybean or corn oil, high in omega-6s that have become oxidized from the heat.
Triggering inflammation throughout the body.
Exactly, raising blood pressure, damaging artery linings. And that batter coating,
Refined flour spikes blood sugar.
big time, adds loads of empty calories, contributes to belly fat gain, which drives insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes risk.
And the high heat itself.
Also a problem, it generates those acrylamides and AGEs, which increase oxidative stress in the body.
Oxidative stress. It's linked to aging, right? Like skin and joints.
That's the connection made here, yes.
Yeah.
Increased oxidative stress can accelerate the breakdown of collagen, so maybe contributing to sagging skin, aching joints over time.
Is there specific research mentioned on this?
Yes, a study in the BMJ from 2020. It followed over 100,000 women for many years.
Yeah.
It found that eating fried chicken just once a week was linked to a 13% higher risk of dying from any cause and a 12% increased risk of heart-related death.
Just once a week.
And the risks were even higher for women over 60, especially if they already had health issues.
So that crispy coating comes at a pretty steep price, health-wise.
It seems so, according to this data, the suggestion. Oven baking or air frying your chicken instead.
Seasoned with herbs, maybe a little olive oil.
Much safer, preserves more nutrients, avoids those harmful compounds.
Okay. Now for the number 1 meat on the worst list for people over 60, according to the source material we've reviewed. And I have to say, this one really surprised me when I read it.
I think it surprises most people.
It's factory-farmed skinless chicken breast.
Yeah. The go-to healthy protein for decades, right? Lean, versatile.
But these sources argue that for seniors, the standard mass-produced version, it can actually be detrimental. How?
Well, the research presented points to a few key things. First, the industrial farming practices themselves.
Like what?
These birds are often raised on feed containing GMOs, routinely given antibiotics, sometimes even compounds containing arsenic to promote growth or prevent disease in crowded conditions.
And residues of that stuff can end up in the meat.
That's the concern raised. Residues of antibiotics, maybe growth promoters, and as we get older, our systems might be more sensitive to these things,
How could they affect us?
potentially disrupting our beneficial gut bacteria, which is crucial for immunity, weakening the immune response overall, and contributing to the huge problem of antibiotic resistance.
Is there evidence of this in chicken?
The source material mentions a Consumer Reports test finding antibiotic-resistant bacteria in a high percentage of supermarket chicken breasts. Over 60%, it said.
Wow. Okay, so farming practices are one issue. What else?
The fact that it's so lean, extremely low in fat.
But isn't low fat good?
Not necessarily, especially for older adults.
Yeah.
We actually need sufficient healthy fats to absorb critical fat-soluble vitamins. Think vitamin D, E, K.
Vitamins needed for bones, brain health, inflammation control.
Exactly. So relying too heavily on ultra-lean protein like this, the sources suggest, could paradoxically lead to deficiencies in those very nutrients.
Showing up how? Dry skin, maybe? Brittle hair?
Could be. Slow wound healing is another potential sign mentioned. Also, that lack of fat can affect blood sugar.
How so?
When you eat very lean protein with carbohydrates, your blood sugar can actually spike more sharply than if the meal had a bit more healthy fat to slow digestion, leading to energy crashes, unstable appetite.
Okay, any other points?
Yes, and this is a big one highlighted, the monotony factor.
Tell me.
Because it's seen as healthy, it's often eaten very frequently, prepared simply, maybe boiled or baked plain until it's dry, meal after meal.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
This lack of variety, the sources argue, can lead to micronutrient deficiencies over time. Things like zinc, B12, and components needed for collagen
Which affects muscles and joints.
directly, contributing to muscle loss, frailty, joint pain, common issues for seniors. There's a 2018 study cited American Journal of Clinical Nutrition.
What did that find?
It found older adults eating skinless chicken breast more than 5 times a week actually had a 16% higher rate of muscle loss and frailty compared to those eating a more varied protein diet.
Higher muscle loss, even though they were eating protein.
Yes. And interestingly, their cholesterol didn't necessarily improve, but markers for inflammation actually went up. The thinking is it might be due to the lack of those beneficial fats and other micronutrients you'd get from a more varied diet.
So when you add it all up, the potential chemical residues, the lack of essential fats for vitamin absorption, the risk of nutrient gaps from eating it too often.
The research suggests that this health food staple, particularly the factory farm version, might pose some real cumulative risks after 60. The sources imply these factors contribute to the kind of risks mentioned earlier, like that 56% heart attack rise figure from the intro, placing it within the context of dangers from processed or nutrient-poor meats.
So the takeaway isn't never eat chicken again, it's be smarter about it.
Absolutely. Seek out pasture-raised or organic if you can. Maybe don't automatically discard the skin. Eat it in moderation for those healthy fats.
Rotate with darker cuts too. Thighs, drumsticks.
Yes, they have more flavor, more nutrients like iron and zinc. Focus on variety, healthy fats, and nutrient-dense preparation. Don't let it become a bland, repetitive default.
That makes a lot more sense. So to sum up this section, it seems processing, additives, how the animal was raised, lack of key nutrients, even just how we cook things can turn meats we thought were safe into potential risks as we age.
That's the picture painted by these sources. Yes, it's about being more discerning.
Okay, that was quite the eye-opener on the worst list. Shall we flip the script now?
Yes, let's move on to the positive side. The meats that these sources say can actively help rebuild health, boost vitality, and really support us as we age.
This is the part I'm excited about.
Mm.
The 4 meats the research says you must eat, ranked again from beneficial to, I think the phrase was, absolutely life-changing.
That's what the material suggests, yeah. Let's start with number 4 on the must-eat list, grass-fed lamb.
Lamb. Often seen as a special occasion thing, maybe.
But these sources argue it has a unique nutritional profile that's particularly great for healthy aging.
Okay.
When it's grass-fed, raised on pasture.
It's different from conventionally raised lamb.
Significantly, yes.
Yeah.
It naturally contains higher levels of beneficial omega-3 fatty acids compared to, say, grain-fed beef or even conventional lamb.
Omega-3s are good for inflammation, right?
Yes, and heart health, brain function. Plus, grass-fed lamb provides a broader spectrum of vitamins and minerals. Crucially, it's typically raised without synthetic hormones, routine antibiotics, or pesticide residues found in feed.
That sounds good. Any specific nutrients highlighted?
High in easily absorbed zinc and B12, both vital for immune function, energy, red blood cell formation areas where deficiencies can creep in as we age.
And those omega-3s help with joints too.
Lubricate joints, keep arteries flexible, reduce heart disease risk. There's a 2020 study mentioned in the journal Nutrients.
What did it show for lamb?
Seniors who included grass-fed lamb just twice a week showed a 23% improvement in muscle strength tests and a 15% drop in inflammatory markers.
Twice a week again. Seems manageable. Any tips on preparing it from the sources?
Choose cuts with some natural marbling, shoulder or leg are good. Trim off excess visible fat after cooking, not before, to keep it moist.
Man.
Roasting, slow cooking, grilling are recommended. Season with herbs, maybe some olive oil. Avoid breaded or deep-fried versions, obviously. And you don't need huge portions, just a few ounces. 2 or 3 times a week is suggested to get the benefits.
Good to know. Okay, number 3 on the must-eat list.
Pasture-raised or free-range duck.
Duck. Interesting. You don't hear about duck much in health discussions.
The sources argue it deserves a major comeback, especially after 60. For heart health, energy levels, fighting inflammation.
Why duck specifically?
It has a really rich nutrient profile. Lots of easily absorbed iron, the hem iron type, which is great for preventing anemia and fatigue. Good source of selenium, too.
And healthy fats.
Yes, a good balance. And importantly, higher levels of omega-3s than other common poultry, like chicken or turkey. Good for the brain, good for blood vessels.
What about duck fat? Isn't that supposed to be unhealthy?
When it comes from pasture-raised birds, the rendered fat is actually presented here as a stable source of monounsaturated fats, similar to olive oil, which can support healthy cholesterol levels.
Huh. Any research on duck's benefits?
A 2019 study in Frontiers in Nutrition is cited. Seniors added duck to their diet twice a week for 6 months.
And the results?
A 19% improvement in cognitive function tests and a 21% decrease in inflammatory markers.
Cognitive function improvement. That's huge.
It really is. Preparation advice focuses on sourcing pasture-raised or free-range is key to get the best nutrient profile and avoid antibiotics or artificial feeds.
How to cook it.
Slow roasting is recommended to preserve nutrients. And get this, the sources say eat the crispy skin.
Really? The skin?
In moderation, yes. It contains essential fatty acids and fat-soluble vitamins. Pair it with antioxidant-rich foods. Think berries, cherries, oranges, leafy greens to maximize the benefits.
Okay, duck is definitely going on my to-try list. What's number 2?
Number 2 on the must-eat list, according to this material, are sardines specifically, with the bones and skin left in.
Sardines. Okay, those little canned fish.
Often overlooked, but described here as one of the most incredibly nutrient-dense proteins on the planet, especially for the needs of older adults.
What makes them so special?
It's that combination you get when you eat them whole. Highly absorbable calcium from the tiny bones, vitamin D from the skin and flesh, loads of omega-3s, and complete protein.
Calcium and vitamin D critical for bone health after 60.
Absolutely. Plus the omega-3s for heart function, brain clarity, all major areas of concern as we age, addressed in one little fish.
Is there a study backing this up?
Yes, a 2022 study from the Journal of Nutrition, Health, and Aging. Older adults ate sardines twice a week for 12 weeks. They saw a 29% improvement in bone density markers and a 32% reduction in triglyceride levels, which is great for heart health.
32% reduction in triglycerides? That's impressive.
Plus, those omega-3s are potent anti-inflammatories, good for joint pain, mood, memory. And another benefit,
What's that?
they're low on the food chain, so they accumulate far less mercury than larger fish like tuna or swordfish, much safer from that perspective.
The key seems to be eating them with the bones and skin.
That's emphasized, yes. That's where a lot of the calcium, collagen, minerals, and vitamin D are concentrated. Packed in olive oil is often recommended for extra healthy fats.
How to eat them? Just out of the can.
You can. Or mash them on toast, toss them in salads, add them to pasta sauces. A squeeze of lemon or some herbs can brighten the flavor if needed.
Okay, sardines are moving up my list too. Now, before we get to the number 1 must-eat meat, just a quick reminder.
Oh, yes.
If you're finding these insights valuable, maybe uncovering some surprising facts about food and health after 60, all based on the research presented, then make sure you're subscribed to this deep dive.
That way you won't miss future explorations into important health topics, always grounded in the source material.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The tension is building, number 1. The meat these sources call the secret weapon, the one that delivers an unmatched nutritional punch for seniors.
Drumroll. It's grass-fed beef liver.
Liver. Okay. I know some people might be hesitant about this one.
Understandably. But the research presented here makes a compelling case for it being almost uniquely powerful in addressing common age-related health challenges.
What makes it so potent? according to the sources.
It is absolutely loaded with crucial, highly bioavailable nutrients. We're talking massive amounts of preformed vitamin A, retinol, the entire B vitamin complex, especially B12.
B12 for energy and nerve function.
Tons of it. Plus, easily absorbed hem iron, copper, zinc, even CoQ10 for energy production at the cellular level.
So directly tackles things like fatigue, anemia.
Exactly. The sources describe it as a direct and rapid fix for issues like anemia, persistent fatigue, slow wound healing, even memory lapses. It supports vision health, bolsters immunity, helps build healthy red blood cells.
That's quite a list. Is there strong clinical evidence cited?
Yes, a significant clinical trial from 2023 in the journal Nutrients is highlighted. Older adults ate 100 grams of grass-fed beef liver twice a week for 10 weeks.
100 grams, like a small serving. What happened?
The results were pretty remarkable. Participants reported, on average, a 44% increase in their energy levels.
24% more energy.
They also showed a 37% improvement in memory tests and significant increases in their hemoglobin and iron levels, confirming the anti-anemia effect.
Wait a minute, that 44% number,
Yeah.
is that the 44% boost to energy and memory we mentioned way back in the intro, linked to the #1 best meat?
That's the one. This study on beef liver is presented as the evidence behind that claim, showing its power to potentially rebuild energy and significantly improve cognitive function based on these trial results.
Wow. So liver really is positioned as the powerhouse here. Quality matters, I assume?
Critically important. Always choose grass-fed or pasture-raised liver if you can. The nutrient profile is superior and you avoid potential residues from conventionally raised animals.
Okay, but the taste.
Yeah.
Any tips from the sources on making it more palatable?
Yes, definitely. The classic trick is to soak it in milk or lemon water for an hour or so before cooking. That really mellows the flavor and tenderizes it.
And cooking.
Saute it quickly with plenty of onions, maybe some garlic, herbs like thyme or sage. The key is not to overcook it, just sear it until it's barely pink inside. Overcooking makes it tough and reduces nutrients.
What about pairing it?
Pairing it with acidic foods like greens with a vinaigrette or citrus can help with iron absorption. And if you really can't handle the taste or texture,
The sources suggest grating small amounts of frozen liver into other ground meat dishes like meatballs, meatloaf, chili, bolognese sauce. You get the incredible nutritional benefits without the strong liver flavor hitting you up front.
sneaky, but effective.
So, grass-fed beef liver, the #1 must-eat, according to this research. A true nutrient bomb.
It really seems to be positioned that way, yes, offering potent, targeted nutrition for many challenges faced after 60.
So let's bring it all together. We've looked at the 4 meats these sources flag as potentially problematic after 60, and the 4 they champion as highly beneficial.
And the overarching message seems incredibly clear from this material. Making informed choices about the type and source of meat you eat after 60 isn't just a minor detail.
No, it's presented as crucial, having a potentially profound impact on your health trajectory. It's not just about eating less meat overall, but eating smarter meat.
Exactly. Those small swaps, those conscious choices you make at each meal, choosing baked over fried, grass-fed over conventional, sardines, or liver over processed sausage, guided by this kind of sourced information.
They add up, making a real difference in your energy, your strength, how clearly you think, how good you feel day to day. That's the implication.
It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it?
It really does,
Yeah.
especially when you consider how counterintuitive some of this was. The #1 worst meat being factory-farmed, skinless chicken breast, something so many see as healthy.
And the #1 best being grass-fed beef liver, something many might shy away from.
So here's a final thought to mull over, building on what we've explored from these sources. What does this stark contrast tell us about maybe questioning some of the conventional dietary wisdom we've held on to? About the need to look deeper, beyond just simple labels like high protein or low fat, and really consider where our food comes from, how it was raised, how it's prepared, especially as our bodies and nutritional needs change with age.
It definitely encourages a more critical, more engaged approach to what's on our plate.
Yeah.
Thinking beyond the surface level.
Absolutely. Well, we've journeyed through quite a bit of material today, identifying meats that, according to this research, might pose risks, and those offering significant benefits for those of us over 60.
And remember, the real power of this knowledge comes from applying it. Using these insights to make adjustments, however small, can contribute to a healthier, more vibrant future.
We really hope you found some valuable takeaways in this deep dive today. Sorting through health information can be tricky, And our aim is always to clearly present what the source material indicates.
So until our next deep dive, let this knowledge fuel your choices.
And please, one last reminder. Do make sure you're subscribed and maybe turn on those notifications. That way, you won't miss out when we tackle other critical health topics like this one.